I think that where most people's heads are going to right now is kind of something that we talked about on the last episode, that idea of the move up to the move up. The move up from 12 to 7 and then potentially from 7 to 4 if a certain player is there. And that player is Ivan Demidov, who, of course, everyone knows is also a young Russian stud player. And as I jokingly said on the last episode, I'd much rather go with the young stud Russian players with high ceilings more so than the milquetoast guys that Chuck Fletcher was pulling out of Minnesota ponds. Now, the likelihood of it happening is probably pretty low. Although, we did see the report yesterday that there's a young player out west who has told their team, reportedly, I don't want to play for you, who happens to be friends with quitter Gauthier. Could Ivan Demidov come off with a masterful power play of his own, akin to what Michkov allegedly did with the Coyotes around the draft? Could Demidov, who's been going up on a lot of teams' board, could he start all of a sudden refusing calls? Could his agent potentially make it known he has no interest in playing for you? And just enough for the Flyers to get up to a position to draft him. I'm not saying it'll happen. I'm not putting that out there.
I'll let Anthony take this. I don't like playing like that, Russ. I'll be honest with you. I think there should be an actual fine for the player. So say if you hold up a team and you grab them by their balls and you say, you know what, fuck you, I'm not playing there, I don't like it. Like, you're eventually, I'm telling you, it's going to happen to Canadian teams eventually. And it is. Like, you're going to have guys drafted to be like, I don't want to fucking play here. But that has to stop, and there has to be a penalty for that. Like, you have to fulfill your 3-year deal to the team that drafts you. Otherwise, you know what? Say, okay, if you're going to do that and you don't want to sign, then there has to be some kind of a financial penalty for the player. Because eventually, if this continues, it's going to continue where you have what looks like the NBA. You got about 8 teams that guys kind of say, oh, I want to go here. Like, you got that guy, the guy that couldn't win on his own. He went to Golden State. Kevin Durant. And then he just goes around trying to pluck teams that seem best for him, but it's not really about that. And I don't want to see the NHL come to that. You know, like, imagine if it's something like Connor McDavid came back in and said, you know what, fuck it, I'm not going to Edmonton. I don't want to play in that town. I don't like customs. I don't like it too north. It's too cold in the winter. And eventually, we're getting close to that. Like, we're at almost at full prima donna level with kids. I've talked to many coaches in different sports, especially my son getting recruited, and it's a normal type of thing. So I think people have to understand that and realize that that you just can't do that. You have to play for the team that drafts you. It's the right thing to do. And it's the honorable thing to do, especially in the league. It's not the GM's fault that he's in Winnipeg or somewhere. So that this has to stop, and there has to be penalties implemented for like a guy like Gauthier. Like, that was just a ballless, classless move to a town like Philly. Imagine saying you don't want to play in Philly. How long is it going to be before someone says, fuck Ottawa, I'm not going there, I'm from Ottawa. I wouldn't play there either, but I'm just saying that. And no, I'm being dead honest. I wouldn't want to play there. And I'm telling you, we're not close from players dictating in this league where they want to play.
I do want to get to this super chat that Rory sent over. Thank you, Rory, for the super chat. Says, shows the Flyers didn't mistreat Quitter. And if you think about it, this kind of, I think, goes back to a much larger thing that the Danny Briere has brought to the table, which is they've negotiated now for multiple players to come out of the KHL, specifically from Russia. Ivan Fedotov, who we thought had been long gone, taken off the board, gets brought over. Matvei Michkov, who was drafted on the assumption, the belief that it was going to be 3 years. See you in 3 years, kid. They figured out a way over the past few months, over the past year, however long it's actually been, which we may or may not eventually find out over some time. They figured out a way to get him out of that deal, or I guess I should say he figured out a way to get himself out of that deal. The Flyers maintain a very strong relationship, it would appear, with teams in the KHL. I think this all of a sudden does open up the potential for them long-term to maybe be able to gamble on players that might be under contract in the KHL. And I think it does put them in a very unique position as being one of only very few teams who's actually managed to do this now on multiple instances in the last couple of years. It truly hasn't been done like this at this level in recent memory, unless I'm missing, 5 or 10 really great examples, Ant.
No, I mean, I would say that you probably had, Washington had a good pipeline there for a little bit. Obviously, Detroit, when you go back to the Russian Five, they had a good pipeline over there, a good way of doing it. But you're right in the sense that, most teams don't have that. I do want to just be careful in how you say it. I mean, I want to be careful in how you say something, but it's you're not really having relationships with the teams specifically. Just to clarify, it's more that the agent that you are working with has the relationship, and of course they have a scout over there who has boots on the ground who can talk to the player. So there are yes, there are relationships that exist, but it's just to clarify, it's not between the Flyers and the team like SKA or any other team in the KHL. That is not allowed. That would be a violation. So just make sure that we.
Yes, that we put out
there
there
are
that there's
loopholes and
definitely
ways around it.
there is definitely
Yeah.
no way that the Philadelphia Flyers and SKA St. Petersburg ever had a conversation. There is absolutely no chance it ever happened. It definitely only happened between the player and his agent and the team. Yes, 100%.
Just saying.
I don't really. I hate like how the sausage was made here. I just know that we got the sausage.